I'm going to reinstall the FLT Road Glide outer fairing. This is a perfect example of working with a friend or a partner. Mark can plug in the headlights. Naturally, on the FLTs, there's two. Then he can hold his side, I can hold my side, and we'll slowly bring the fairing back up into place. Make sure any of the blue painter's tape doesn't get trapped between the outer and the inner fairing upon reinstallation. It'll take a little practice, but you'll be able to find those two locating tabs and the notches. Make sure your turn signal wire is through the elongated notch in the outer fairing. With the outer fairing firmly connected into the notches and our two indexing pins locked into the inner fairing, I can now reinstall my uppermost fairing bolt on the inner fairing. This will have to be done for both sides. And I can work my way downward, making sure the outer and inner fairing are mated together correctly. Mark will do the same procedure. Make sure everything is lined up. You don't want to fracture the inner or the outer fairing when you're snugging it back up. I can now get my bottom bolt started. At this point, I just want to snug them all up. I don't want to tighten any one all the way. With the three inner bolts started, I can reinstall my turn signal assembly with mount. Make sure you push any excess wire up in the inner fairing. I can reinstall both of my inner flat washers. And both of my inner retaining nuts. I can draw these nuts down evenly until they're both snug, making sure the signal assembly remains parallel with the motorcycle. Now with all 6 inner fairing bolts reinstalled, both turn signal assemblies reinstalled through the outer fairing and retained with nuts on the inside of the inner fairing, I can return to the front of the motorcycle. We'll give a good check, make sure everything is locked into the frame. All our seals and gaskets are in place. All our well nuts are in good shape. I can now reinstall the windshield base gasket. Onto the base of the windshield. These are the elongated notches I spoke of. But if you were to leave the bolts in the well nuts on the outer fairing, it'd be just about impossible to sneak this gasket in once it was indexed into the notch. I can hold the windshield by the gasket surface and gently place it back into position on the outer portion of the FLT fixed fairing. With the windshield and gasket in place, I can install my center bolt. Just draw it down so I know I have a few threads threaded into the well nut. I can start my next bolt in line. Just drawing it down till the head of the Phillips bolt just makes contact with the plastic windshield washer. I can do the same thing for my last bolt on the outside edge. Just start it. Get a few threads caught and run it in till it just contacts the washer that runs against the windshield. Always making sure your blue painter's tape isn't captured between the gasket and the painted surface, and that the gasket is in its correct position. I can reinstall the last two windshield bolts on the right side. With all the hardware reinstalled into the FLT fixed fairing, I'll consult my service manual, torque all the hardware to factory specifications. I'll lower the motorcycle down, turn the ignition on, verify both headlights are working, both low and high beam. Both turn signals are working not only for running lights, but for directionals and four-way flashers.